This is Catholic Forum. I'm Bob Krebs, and my guest today is the archivist for the Diocese of Wilmington, Susan Kirk Ryan. Susan, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to see you. We've known each other for quite a long time, and you've been the archivist for the diocese for how long?
8 years.
Wow, time flies.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us about yourself.
I was born in Delaware, in Wilmington. I went to St. Mary Magdalene School and Ursuline Academy, then to St. Joe's University in Philadelphia and Villanova Law School. I practiced law. I was a deputy attorney general with the State Department of Justice for about 10 years. And after that, I went home to be with my daughter and work part-time in legal things for some time. I'm married to the retired editor of the Dialogue.
Yes, Joe Ryan.
That's right.
Everybody loves and knows Joe.
Yes,
so
we
how
do.
did you get, especially you?
Yes.
So how did you get interested in the archives and that sort of thing?
Around 2010, I started getting interested in family history and began to explore that a little bit. I had some time as I was working part-time and learned about researching Catholic archives in this country and abroad. My ancestors are from Connecticut and New York and from Ireland mainly. And during those next 5 years, I spent time going to Diocesan Archives in other states and and in other countries, and was really moved to see, for instance, my great-great-grandparents' marriage record when they eloped from St. Finbarrs in Bantry, Ireland, in 1850, and I was able to see the original record of that, the original register, and it brought my faith home to me to think how this tradition has been for centuries in my family. It was I saw it as a way to bring people closer to their faith, to see their family's journey in faith.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what is the mission of the Diocesan Archives?
It is to preserve the records and documents and artifacts of enduring value, things that need to be kept, mainly of the diocese itself. So the records and papers of the bishops and the records and papers of diocesan offices. We also have some parish records. Those, by canon law, the parishes are to keep those records themselves, but if a parish has closed or is unable to keep them, they come to the Diocesan Archives.
So what types of items and documents and records are you talking about?
The most important thing that we have are sacramental registers, and those are the original and only authentic recording of our sacraments, and we have them for some of the oldest parishes in the diocese, and we keep those from closed parishes as well. So they're an amazing recording of the history of this diocese. We also have letters and correspondence from before the diocese started, back in when, for instance, St. John Newman was the bishop in Philadelphia and was in charge of this part of the diocese. Mm-hmm. We have correspondence from him about Wilmington and about priests in Wilmington.
Mm-hmm. So you have documents going back to what year?
We have documents to the 1700s, mm-hmm. and we have artifacts to the 1600s.
Wow, wow. So you brought some items to share,
yes,
and with our audience. So tell us a little bit. What do you have in front of you?
In front of me now is the sacramental register for St. Joseph's Mission in Cordova, Maryland,
right?
And it starts in 1840. And goes forward. And so it's old and fragile, and that's why it's with us. But the baptisms begin in December of 1840. I'll see if I can hold that up so you can see
For those
it.
who are listening, they could, Susan's holding up a very, very old, delicate book. Now, what types of records are in there? Would that be for baptisms?
Baptisms, marriages, and the baptisms include baptisms of free people, baptisms of those who are enslaved, baptisms of free people of color. Mm-hmm. So it gives a very illuminating history of our diocese.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes, and we have a number of these in our collection.
Right.
We also have microfilms of most records so that if people are researching their families, we may be able to help them get to those records.
Gotcha. So at the time, a pastor, a priest, maybe a parish secretary in later years, when someone was baptized or received their first communion or was married, they would actually take a pen and make an entry in these journals.
And they still do.
And they still do. Right?
Yes.
That's the way it's
That
way
is
it's
the
done.
way it's still done in every parish around the world, actually.
Right.
And when people hear that their baptism record is their permanent record, it really is.
Yeah.
It records. It's supposed to record not just your baptism, but your confirmation, and if you were confirmed elsewhere, notice of that comes back to the original parish, and they write it in. Same with marriage and other sacraments; those are written into someone's baptismal register. When Christ our King closed in 2016, those records came here, so that if someone now is, say, getting married and they were baptized at Christ our King, they would contact me and I would prepare a certified baptismal certificate for them in order to proceed with a Catholic marriage.
Right. But if it's a parish that's still in existence, then that's housed at the parish.
At the parish, and
Right.
those records are kept with an active parish.
Mm-hmm. So what else do you have to show us?
Well, I have this is the original, the physical copy, the physical charter of the Diocese of Wilmington
Right.
from 1868 when our diocese was founded. This is from Rome, and is that okay? From 1868, that's signed by the Pope, and begins our trip as a diocese, a Catholic diocese in the United States.
Right. So that's a papal document from 1868 that
Yes.
established our diocese.
Yes.
Before that, the Delaware portion of our diocese was part of the Archdiocese of Philadelphia,
Yes.
and the Maryland part was part of Baltimore, the
Correct.
Diocese of Baltimore.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And we have things that precede that, I have a couple of them here.
Sure. Let's see.
Some are just artifacts. We have the this Bible, which is from 1790, was presented to the Diocesan Archives. It's the first Catholic version of the Bible printed in the United States.
Wow.
And there are limited copies of this. This one has seen a fire.
Yeah, it looks like it's
Yes.
singed a little bit.
It was plucked from a fire,
So
is
if
what
we
were
were
told.
on Antiques Roadshow, that would be for what, about $700 or $800 million? Is that what it would be?
It's sentimental value and historical value.
It's
I won't
priceless.
guess anything else. Yes, it's priceless in those ways.
Sure. So that is one of the first Bibles ever printed.
Yes, a
in
first Catholic Bible
Bible.
printed in the U.S. I
In
mean,
the
it's not
US.
the only copy of it, but
Right,
it was
right.
the first one printed,
Sure.
1790.
Wow.
This is called a recusant chalice. This chalice is from 1640, and at the time, practicing Catholicism could lead to jail or death, and so the priests had chalices that could be taken apart and hidden, so that they didn't look like a chalice if they were caught. So this one is from 1640, and it has the silver marks and bearings to show that.
Is that how you established that, or someone
Yes,
established that it
that's
goes
correct.
back to 1640?
Yes, yeah.
And that was used in the United States?
Yes,
Right.
that was used here.
In our diocese?
Yes,
Do you
in
know
our
who
diocese.
used it?
I believe this was Cordova, Maryland, but I can get back to you.
It was probably
The-
the
The missions,
Jesuit.
yes, the missions of Old Bohemia and Cordova, St. Joseph's Cordova, were two of the very earliest places where Catholicism was practiced
Right.
in the Delaware, Maryland region.
Yeah, it's amazing that our diocese, being Maryland Eastern Shore, has some very, very early churches.
They do.
And it goes back to, as you mentioned, when you would think, oh, Maryland was founded for religious liberty,
Yes.
But yeah, but then the priests had to hide the fact
Yes.
that they were priests.
Correct.
And churches had to hide that they were churches.
Pretend to be a house.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
There was a lot of religious persecution in the United States as well.
Yeah.
This,
Now, I think I know what that is. That is the key that Jesus gave to St. Peter to say, on this rock
That's
I
right.
build my church. Am I correct on that?
Yes, and that's why it's so valuable. Actually, this is the key to Coffee Run Church, which was from 1772. It's the church that was in Hockessin. Its successor is St. Mary of the Assumption in Hockessin.
Right.
But at the time, the little church in Coffee Run, this was the key.
That would be the one that's right off of Lancaster.
Yes, and the
Boulevard.
cemetery is
Cemetery's
still there.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
It's a Protestant church now.
Yes, and back behind it is the cemetery,
Right.
which needs some help, I'm
Yeah.
told. It needs some tender, loving care.
Yeah, well, maybe somebody who's listening or watching this can volunteer to help spruce that up a little bit.
That would be great.
The graves go back into the 1700s.
Yes, they do. And many of the Father Kenny, the priest who was a traveling priest in this area from long ago, he's buried there. There are many burials from Ireland, and actually the archives has a transcription of the burials that were there, and the transcription of headstones that was done in the 1939 or so. So things that are no longer visible, we have copies of some of those, as we do with other cemeteries in the diocese.
That's interesting. So if anybody, Eagle Scout, anybody who wants a project that has historical and spiritual value, that'd be a good one.
Yes.
Okay. What else do you have for us, Susan?
Well, let's see. We have bishop's pectoral crosses and rings. This is a bishop's pectoral cross. Just checking my facts here. It was worn by both Bishop Monahan, who was bishop here from 1897 to 1925, and his successor, Bishop Fitzmaurice. They sometimes wore a series of them, but we can tell from the portraits that this one was worn by both of those.
Mm-hmm. Can I see it? All right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Would that be gold and semi-precious stones?
Yes, and a cameo in the middle, which is kind of unusual. The Blessed Mother is in a cameo in the center of that, and it is. Some of them are the pectoral crosses. We have a collection of those, as well as bishop's rings, and some of those went with the styles. So they some are very plain. Some are Bishop Fitzmaurice enjoyed ones that looked Irish, including one with a clover on his pectoral cross.
Yeah.
Some are very, very simple. It depended on the tastes of and the gifts that were given or passed down to the various bishops.
Right. I think Bishop Saltarelli gave one of his pectoral crosses to Bishop Barris, who's now the bishop of Rockville Center, New York. Yeah. And I think that's common, isn't it? When
yes.
Bishops, her friends, they would make a gift of their pectoral cross.
That's correct, yes.
And the pectoral cross is the cross that bishops wear on their chest. It's part of their office as bishop. Yeah.
Correct, yes.
Anything else?
Let's see. We have a number of letters from different people. This one was a note and a Christmas card from St. Teresa of Calcutta to Bishop Mardica in 1983. She wrote to say that, "Thank you for your kind letter and invitation. I'm sorry I will not be able to come to you and your people, as this year I do not intend to come to the U.S." She had a happy and holy and happy New Year. God bless you, St. Teresa. And she loving each other.
St. Teresa, though, did she?
No, she did not. Loving each other as Jesus loves each one of you. God bless you.
Well, that's beautiful. So that is a relic.
Yes, it is.
That would be like a first-class relic, right? Or a second
class.
Yeah.
And we have a number of relics in our collection.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. She had quite a nice handwriting.
Yes, she did. Yes.
She was taught penmanship very well
in
Hungary when she was a kid.
Yes. We also have letters from St. John Newman back at the founding of, before the founding of the diocese. So we have a number of things of enduring value, as
Yeah.
we've said.
Yeah. So St. John Newman was, as you said, was the Archbishop of Philadelphia,
Yes.
and before we became a diocese, and he
Yes.
actually came to our diocese and dedicated a church.
A couple, I think, but
Really?
St. Mary of the Immaculate Conception for
Uh-huh.
sure, and there were big stories in the newspaper at the time about
Yeah,
that.
when he came.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
What year would that have been? Just I know I'm throwing you a curveball.
Yeah, you are throwing me a curveball.
1860s maybe.
I would have
That's
to.
fine.
Yes,
Yeah, I
sorry
know.
about that.
No worries. No worries. You have anything else to share with us?
I think those are pretty much all the artifacts I brought with me.
What do you like most about being the archivist of the diocese?
I like trying to help people find their ancestors because through that I think it helps them find their faith. So if someone calls looking for their great-grandmother's baptism, I enjoy helping them with that. I enjoy the fascinating things that we have and trying to care for them and preserve them for future generations. That we have so many things. We have deeds from some of the old churches and the artifacts that we would like to keep and preserve for a long time. So
You also keep all the back issues of the dialogue.
yes, we do.
So that's a great way to trace what's been going on in our diocese beginning back in 1960. was it?
65.
65.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So yeah. So that's another thing. What else? What am I missing?
Those are the main things. Yeah.
Do you have you're a staff of one?
Yes, and a part-time staff of one.
Right.
I work 8 hours a week.
Well, thanks for sharing part of an hour with us. 'Cause I know
Happy to do that.
I
Happy
know
to
they're
do that.
precious.
And
And you
I'm-
also have some volunteers.
I
who
am
help
very,
you.
very lucky to have some wonderful volunteers. They're friends. One of the volunteers was here before I began, and he continues, Michael Buckley. I have other volunteers who help, including Kathleen Carver, who's a retired teacher, who's been especially helpful with school records and other things, whatever's needed, and Bob and Joanne Kerr, who have helped with a variety of things, computer-related, display-related. They were instrumental in getting both the exhibit we had, and all of those four helped both on the exhibit in 2019 that we had at St. Joe's on the Brandywine and a recent open house when the bishop blessed the archives.
Right. The archives was at St. Joe's on the Brandywine
Yes.
for many decades, and then just recently, within the last year and a half, moved.
Yes,
to,
that's correct.
To actually right outside my studio.
Yes, yes. Yeah, this was an easy commute today.
Yeah, absolutely. About 12 feet.
Yes.
And that's great. Let's talk a little bit about your predecessor, Don Devine. He was the archivist for many, many years here.
Yes, he was, and that's actually how I heard about the job because I knew Don both from the practice of law and also from genealogy.
That's right. He was
did
another
both.
lawyer. Yeah.
Yes, and a genealogist.
Wow.
So I knew him in two different fields before I read that he was looking to retire and looking for someone to replace him. I read it in the dialogue and applied.
Yeah.
So he was a brilliant man and known nationally for his genealogical work and did a wonderful job with the archives.
He worked for the city of Wilmington.
Yes.
He was a general in the Delaware National Guard.
Yes, yes.
He wrote the last verse of the Delaware State song. I mean,
Correct,
This
yes.
guy was a Renaissance man.
Yes, he truly was.
And just
Yes.
an amazing
And very
person.
funny as well.
Absolutely. And I've had him on
Yeah.
the show. On this show,
Yes.
I've been doing it for 25 years, so
He-
he's been on it a few
He
times.
was nationally recognized for his work in family history and genealogy. And when it was clear that he was ill the fall before he died, the national people, I was president of the Delaware Genealogical Society, and the national group said they wanted to come to Delaware and honor him. And so we had a surprise event for him, and they named a scholarship in his honor that's at the national level.
That's great. So the Diocese of Wilmington Archives is not only where important documents and artifacts come, It's where retired lawyers come.
That's right.
Susan,
And if they're lucky, they learn a lot about library science and archives preservation, because those were not in my original field,
Yeah.
nor were they in Don's. But there are avenues to learn that.
That's great. Well, Susan, it was great talking to you. Thanks for sharing information about our archives. If somebody would like to find out more, they can go on the diocesan website.
Yes, and we're hoping to develop our website significantly, our portion of the diocesan website significantly in the coming months. But certainly you can contact me through there. The email address is archives@cdow.org. You're welcome to come visit. It's by appointment because my hours are limited,
Right.
but I'm happy to come in at someone's convenience if we can work out a mutual time for them to come in and do research. We have microfilms they can look at. There are correspondence. There are all kinds of things that someone can see here at the diocese. And we hope to have another open house open to the public sometime in the near future, too.
Susan, thanks so much for being with us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Bob.